how can I take use of cloud resources, maybe services, infrastructure that I don't have access today, or maybe too costly in my current environment, while maintaining the applications and infrastructure that are generating value for my company. We're at AWS reInvent. We're talking about AI and new technologies, but the fact remains, in IT, nothing truly ever dies. I'm sure somewhere out on the show floor there's a mainframe exhibit. 70% of the enterprises of the Fortune 500 rather are using mainframes today. And our landscape is that I've been with Nutanix for 13 years. Dwayne Lesnar, technical marketing for Nutanix Cloud Clusters, which is the Nutanix software running in AWS. But the landscape is such that mergers, acquisitions are really changing and pressuring companies to make a change within the environments. We have application stacks that are requiring Kubernetes, so maybe a big change for operational teams. And then on top of that, in most cases, AI is also going to be sitting on that. Michael Dell had quoted a Barclays CIO survey stating that 83% of customers are going to move back from public cloud to on-prem. Now, he has some skin in the game for infrastructure. I don't know if that number is right, but what I will say, a hybrid connected infrastructure, giving your business the choice and opportunity to make the right decision at the right time, is where most companies are going to want to be, including Nutanix and AWS. So Nutanix, which was born on the on-prem side with the hyperconvert stack, compute storage hypervisor, data center in a box, super successful on tackling storage issues that gave it a bedrock to then tackle virtualization problems, which gave born to our own hypervisor, AHV. That hypervisor has over 800 built-in security checks that can be ran in an automation framework. I say this because it's secure, and you're only as secure as the last time you actually hardened your platform. The platform, with its great performance, can host a variety of applications, Oracle, SAP. We were super known for VDI. VDI, virtual desktops, is a use case that is somewhat blunt force trauma, especially with older storage architectures. We also have a database platform called NDB, which allows us to quickly provision, manage Oracle, SQL, Postgres, MongoDB. So more than just infrastructure, but allowing to optimize licenses. So this software stack now runs on NC2, or runs on bare metal in AWS, which we call NC2, a variety of different bare metal options. What's unique for Nutanix, the bare metal, say if a region runs out of I4, which you could use to deploy our software, we can take other bare metal types and integrate it into the platform, thus protecting customers when a resource goes away in the cloud. You still have access to keep your business running. And one other point to make, typically in the public cloud, high consistent performance is costly. So our platform has steadily increased release after release. We have a highly scalable distributed storage fabric that writes to all flash, which are the bare metal nodes that we're using. So your workloads are going to inherit that as they move on to AWS. They're also going to get HA and rack awareness through our platform. Now, we believe that most customers are already in the public cloud. You're here. So with that, we know that we have to fit into your existing AWS environment. Now, NC2 on AWS, it smells, it looks, it feels like a managed service, but it is not. So at any time you want to add, remove, eliminate NC2, you have that flexibility. Because of Nutanix's strength at day two operations, this is a breeze, and probably why Nutanix has been most successful in its journey. So One requirement, we do require some outbound way to talk to our NC2 portal. The NC2 portal is just there to talk to the bare metal nodes, so we can reprovision maybe a firmware update, an outage, a bad hard drive. This is done automatically. The customers don't have to know about it. Now, pretty simple. We need one AWS subnet within your account for the bare metal nodes. And then you can have additional AWS subnets attached directly to our software, Prism Element. Workloads that come up on Nutanix in AWS get a native AWS IP, meaning it's routable and you have access to all AWS services. So really easy to integrate other software stacks and get up and going right away. Now, not required, but if you want to have the same networking stack as you do on-prem, maybe a service provider and in AWS, we have our own overlay networking, Flow Virtual Networking, where you can create layer 2 subnet extensions. You have the ability to add in additional firewalling or use micro segmentation to stop east-west traffic within your environment. So one of the most popular use cases, other than fast migrations to the public cloud for NC2 on AWS, is DR. Over half of companies believe that they're unable to meet the IT expectations of their DR plan. Most customers are not doing testing. It's kind of a line item for most individuals, especially smaller companies. So NC2 can help with DR. Nutanix nodes can take use of EBS storage. So you can start off with a small number of nodes, add EBS storage. You start replicating. As long as you're covering the change rate of your application, you can just keep adding more storage, thus eliminating the cost of bare metal nodes and also the other Windows licensing that's going to be entailed. So at the very end, once you reach the limits of Nutanix DR, from depending on how fast you want to replicate, at the time of failover, you can just add additional nodes to cover the CPU and memory within your environment. In other words, this is known as elastic DR. And so with that, we have our own automation, but our NC2 portal is built with an API. So if you want to use Lambda functions and automate against it, you have that flexibility. Nutanix within Prism Central, which is our management stack, has playbooks. Very simple, it provides a UI-based way that you can do if-else-then statements. So I could fire off a failover, and in part, once that failover is kicked off, I could then automate adding extra nodes into my Nutanix environment. And if COVID has taught us anything, that it's also supply chain can be wrecked, so there is some benefits around supply chain protection. And also, if you didn't want to do it this way, maybe you have one of these backup vendors, there's others, but you could just back up your on-prem, your edge environment to S3, and then on demand deploy a Nutanix cluster and do the restore. We also have a very unique capability called hibernate and resume. So you can fully deploy an NC2 cluster in AWS, configure all of the networking, security into it, and then hibernate it. So we're going to send all of that data to S3. You're not paying any bare metal licensing costs at that point. When the bad event happens, you resume it, your cluster is ready to go, and start the restore process. Now, just today, with the release of 7.0 for Nutanix, we offer a capability called Zero Compute. It relies on our multi-cloud snapshot technology, which is really fancy words for Nutanix snapshots going directly to S3. This is really great for companies of all sizes that maybe haven't been able to afford DR today. So whether you're edge, in the data center, you can send your Nutanix snapshots to S3, and then same thing applies. Spin up your cluster on demand, or send those snapshots back to the on-prem side when you're ready. Now, what happens if I have no Nutanix in my environment, but I'm looking to move off of VMware, maybe VMC, Hyper-V, AWS, or maybe even Azure instances. And why would you even want to move or consolidate AWS or Azure instances? Because once again, you're getting high performance. Those applications that don't have built-in HA are going to inherit it with NC2 on AWS. So Nutanix offers this appliance called Move. It could, you typically deploy it on the source side. It has a UI. It also has an API. We've used it for a single customer to move thousands of virtual machines onto the platform. So you can you put in your vCenter information as an example, put that plumbing in, pick Nutanix as your destination. We're going to seed the data behind the scenes. When you're ready, all of the data's been migrated. We shut the machine down for one time, take a snapshot, cut it over, and so you always have a way to get back to the original. So this has been quite popular with recent events. Now, a big one that we've been dealing with at Nutanix are VMC environments moving onto Nutanix. So lots going on in the diagram, but it's actually a really simple process. So you have your VMware environment within VMC, you deploy an external transit gateway. It's going to connect to a transit gateway within your Nutanix AWS account, which could be in the exact same region. We don't really care. We don't have any limits there. Then you'll accept the peering request for your transit gateway. Once those two environments are connected in your transit gateway, you will add the routes for the Nutanix environment to route through to the VMC, vice versa. And then on the AWS side, you'll have two management points, the compute gateway, management gateway. We just need to poke holes for our Move appliance, which you see on your right-hand side at the bottom is living in a native AWS subnet. You'll notice that we have a user management and a UVM security group. So that means we do integrate with native AWS security groups. So as an AWS administrator, it's going to be really easy to secure the Nutanix environment. And then, so you'll open those security groups up on the Nutanix side. Once Move can contact vCenter and the ESXi nodes, you're off being able to use the Move appliance to seed your data and bring it across. Now, so this can be quite simple. It does bring up the notion of what happens when I want to maintain my networking. I would typically recommend some sort of cutover. Now, in VMC land, they don't allow you to edit forge transmits and some other networking things. So you can, in scenarios, still create an L2. You may have to do it from an on-prem to get it there, but Nutanix does have the software to create an L2 between two environments, in this case on-prem and the public cloud, which will allow you to maintain your networking for applications that, God bless, are maybe not as modern as we would like. On the right-hand side, you'll notice within, we're using Flow Virtual Networking. We have a virtual router. You can make routing decisions, and why this is important, because in this example, we're hairpinning our traffic. So in this case, we're talking to an EC2 instance, AZ2 server, which is going to work. But if we didn't have this in place, if we talked from our VM on AZ2 up to the EC2 instance and came back, that traffic would be dropped because most firewalls are stateful, and if they're not seeing the same traffic path, it's no bueno. So you're going to be out to lunch with the return traffic, and you're not going to be in a great situation. Now, we talked a lot about virtualization. We're going to talk a bit about storage, but the reason I feel this is important, because Nutanix does have a Kubernetes platform that we acquired about over a year ago by a company called D2iQ. When Kubernetes, Swarm, and Mesosphere were all battling each other for the orchestration engine, we know that Kubernetes won. But this team that was building Mesosphere, the same time the people from Google were creating Kubernetes, they created their own CNCF platform for Kubernetes, which, if you have to upgrade a Kubernetes cluster 3 or 4 times a year, it's going to save 90% of the operational costs. And why is it doing that? It takes about 20 different Kubernetes projects to make it operational. I say all this because Nutanix has Nutanix Files, which has SMB NFS storage. We have an objects platform that can create a single namespace with on-prem, with S3. We do data tiering. We have ransomware protection, so we can tell via heuristics if ransomware is happening, if a single user maybe all of a sudden is accessing a file 1,000 times, and we can shut it down. And so if you want to do Kubernetes, now you have this great storage platform that's going to allow you to have stateful applications and be able to spin them up on-prem, in the public cloud, and move them where you need to go. With that, Data Lens is a SaaS service that's powering some of the tiering capabilities that Nutanix Files and Objects has. Nutanix Files can be deployed within AWS, needing no Nutanix at all. And that has been important for use cases where you have edge video processing in your environment. You want to bring that data quickly into AWS. Because of the native networking, you can spin up an EC2 GPU node, do your rendering, process it, shut it down, and away you go. So, regardless of what you need to do with Nutanix, we have a way to move your virtualized workloads quickly into AWS. We have a storage platform that's supporting both virtualization, Kubernetes, your AI infrastructure. And then last week, or 2 weeks ago, we announced a platform for securing Kubernetes AI deployments called Enterprise AI, where you'll be able to have security, governance, and while not so sexy, and probably one of the major parts of Nutanix success around doing troubleshooting and having support. You know, our support is rated around 90% from an NPS score. While that may mean nothing to you, what it does mean is when you pick up the phone, you're going to have a great time in your moment of need getting support from Nutanix. So wherever your journey takes you, whether it's on-prem, back again, AWS, Nutanix and AWS are going to help you along the way to get your right application in the right environment when you need to. Full demos at booth 147 on Nutanix Move. There's VMC demos there, Kubernetes deployments, fleet management from on-prem, managing EKS or bare metal deployments. Love to see you there. Thanks, everybody.